So if you could educate yourself a little more, you would know that
Okay.
as well.
I will educate myself.
It's not fair.
Don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I give you the answer. It's just obnoxious. It really is.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all is good wherever you are. Today we're going to watch two clips of Candace Owens debating some students at a university. This was a event put on by Turning Point USA. It was part of their Live Free tour. All their links are in the description below. We're going to watch these two clips, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on these clips after each one. Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm wondering, there are dozens of words for two-spirited people, people that would now be considered LGBTQ or trans people in the native languages. So I'd like to know how, as these people have existed for thousands of years before you were alive or anyone else in this room was alive, and before anyone even colonized America. If trans people were around then, I'm just wondering why you think it is that trans people are only here now because the media is telling people these things.
Well, do you think it's weird that I graduated with 0 trans people? Do you think what do you think has contributed to the explosion of transgender people from the time that I was in high school? I'll ask you a question back. If this was just a natural thing, and I don't know what you're talking about with two-spirit people, is this like a Native American tribe, like high, smoking, and talking about your spirit? I'm asking you seriously, because when I think of Native American tribes talking about their spirits, I know that they used to smoke a lot, they used to do drugs, they also were cannibals who used to eat people, so I don't know if we should be taking our cues from cannibals. But
I think
can you
that's
explain
kind
to me
of
what
ridiculous.
two-spirit is in the history?
There are people that would now be considered trans people, people that did not feel that they fit
What
the
part,
binary
though?
gender.
Native Americans? I'm asking you.
Yes, I'm telling you that not only in one Native American tribe, but in multiple tribes, there were dozens of terms that referred to people that would now be considered trans, and that was hundreds of years ago. So I'm just wondering why you think that people are only trans now because the media is telling them to be.
Well, I told you, because of the proliferation. So you can't just go from having 0% to suddenly 25%
Right, but what
of
I'm
people.
saying is that these people were around for thousands of years.
Well, what you're saying is that some Native American tribes had people that would be considered trans today, something that we can't fact check because they're dead.
It's
right?
historical knowledge.
It's historical
documented.
knowledge that there were trans Native Americans.
Yes.
I really don't think that's historical knowledge. But here's what I'll answer.
Then.
I don't think that there were trans Native Americans. I will educate myself on the trans Native Americans that were running around America. But here's what I'll say: Native Americans were also cannibals. Did you know that fact? Did you educate yourself on the fact?
All Native Americans were cannibals?
Should we just assume that it's natural for us to be eating humans because Native Americans were cannibals?
I really think that don't apply to what I'm asking at all.
It exactly applies to what you're asking. You're saying that you found a piece of historical knowledge, which I would genuinely love to fact check, that there were trans
Do you want some
Native
names?
Americans of their trans names. Yes.
Lozen, Datese, Hastinkla, Oshtish, Wehwa.
These were trans Native Americans.
Yes.
Okay. I think what you're saying is that they probably found some that they thought that they had different spirits, because we know that Native Americans were incredibly spiritual. There's no question about
Are you
that.
not
Which
spiritual? You believe in God?
I do believe in God. Yes.
So
That doesn't make me believe in trans people. That doesn't make me believe that you can switch your parts. I don't believe they were performing surgeries. And you can let me know, but I don't believe that in Native American history they were performing surgeries trying to switch their genitals because they thought that they were born in the wrong body.
There were people that felt that they didn't belong in the binary genders that we have.
Okay, so you're talking about somebody in the history of Native American history had a feeling that they were, and now you're saying that they're trans.
I'm just saying, I don't think you're really addressing what I'm asking. I'm saying that
I think I've addressed it like 20 times, and you're just not wanting to hear it because you want to believe that there were trans Native Americans that were chopping off their genitals. They weren't. But I'm, again, happy to educate myself and explore.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a Native American that was chopping off genitals. Happen to have in my family Native American history, never heard of it, but I'm definitely happy to dive into it. I think what you're probably facing is a rewrite of history where they're taking something that was just an idea, of a spiritual idea, where people, and you see this today, who take ayahuasca, they have a trip, they go back, they say that they realize they were a man in a prior life. This is very common when people take drugs, which the Native Americans did, but again, they weren't chopping their off. So no, this is a different thing that we're dealing with.
Bro, Candace Owens is a damn pit bull. She is so good at these debates. I would not want to find myself in her crosshairs. Now, what this young lady is talking about, the two-spirit, that is essentially the 2S in LGBTQ2S+. I mean, that thing's starting to look like a complicated Google password at this point. That's from the 1990s. That term was coined by a gay activist in the 90s. You can look this up. I'm sure Wikipedia has it. So it's not old. Like, if you went back in time to the 1850s when the Comanches were fighting each other and these Native American tribes were fighting, you wouldn't find this mass amount of trans people or even gay people, because they would have been killed back then. Like, the trans community like to say that, you know, because society doesn't affirm them, that's why their suicide rate is so high. Well, if there was indeed so many trans people back then in those days, they would have been in a very, you know, unaffirming society. So if that is the case, we would have this mass amount of people that throughout history would have committed suicide because society didn't affirm them, and that's just not the case, really. Let's get to the second clip.
Hello. So my question is also about trans people, because it's specifically about trans people competing in sports, because I think everyone here can agree we need to protect women's sports. So recently in Texas, there was a boy who won the girls wrestling state championship. Do you think that he should have been allowed to compete in that division?
I think that a man taking down a woman on a map should warrant a call to the police.
Wonderful.
And should not, of course, be considered a sport.
Because he was actually born female and forced to compete in that division despite being on HRT.
I am so open to transgender people. Like, if they want to have their own division, go for it. I literally, in fact, I would love to watch it. I actually would love to watch it. If you are opting in as a man, as a woman, to having a man take you down on a mat, that is totally fine for me. But what is unacceptable is that we have these divisions. This is for women, this is for men, and you have people that are allowing men to compete in these women's divisions and to obviously dominate, because going back to biology, men, of course, are stronger than women. They are always going to be stronger and faster than women.
It's like how Leah Thomas went from getting second place in a race as a man to winning the race.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable, and it's fraudulent, and the people...
Exactly. Going from second to first does not happen naturally. Yeah.
And so I think...
Leah Thomas, the swimmer who came in second place in the
as a
men's
man,
Ivy
that's
League
right, yeah.
championships.
Yeah, and then he just switched his
then
gender and suddenly was dominating.
Went from second to first. As someone who competed in athletics in college and high school myself, no one ever goes from second place to first place.
Okay, so if you, Leah Thomas was not in second place when he was competing with men.
He absolutely was. If you look at the 2019 Ivy League championships, I literally...
That is not true.
Look at the statistics. Ivy League championships 2019 men's division in the 100 free for both the prelims and the finals.
Okay, let me put it this way. Let's just... Maybe there was one race that he came in second place in.
The Ivy League championships is one race.
Okay, thumbs up. Riley Gaines, who has spoken about how she competed against Leah Thomas and it was not fair. Leah Thomas suddenly switching your gender, competing against women is not fair. I am open to Leah Thomas.
You're going to say it's not fair.
Don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I give you the answer. It's just obnoxious. It really is. I am open to Leah Thomas and every other trans person having their own category at the Olympics and allowing them to compete. That is absolutely fine. Having their own category at high school universities, at high schools, at universities, everywhere across the country, and being able to compete. What I am not open to are biological men competing against women. If you want evidence that biological men will always defeat women, look no further than the actual Olympics and look at the time differences as it is when men are competing in a sprint versus women competing in a sprint, when men are competing in a throw versus when women are competing in a throw. If you don't want to acknowledge biological reality, I want you to lead the trans Olympics. I want you to be the person that establishes the trans events for people. Thank you for your question. There's more people behind you.
Okay. I love that your solution is separate but equal.
What? So we already have a what? Your solution is separate but equal? What are you talking about? We already have men and women divisions, so is that separate but equal? Next question.
This is a crazy argument. As somebody who has a kinesiology degree, like, we have about 100 different things biologically between men and women. The trans community likes to bring up hormones.
Well, they match the hormone levels.
It's not all about hormones. We have, like I said, 100 different things, right? So men have 20% more muscle mass, 40% more upper body strength, 33% more lower body strength, longer legs, bigger lungs, bigger heart, a higher capacity to produce oxygen, more testosterone, less estrogen, bigger fast twitch muscle fibers. Like there's a lot longer legs. There's a lot of things that men have advantage of when it comes to physical sports. Just look at the Olympics. Take two sports. Take sprinting, for example, an easy one, running. Everybody can relate to running. The fastest man in the world will always beat the fastest woman in the world, and by a lot. Like she's not even close to the 1,000th fastest man in the world. Look at even just Serena and Venus Williams, two of the best women's tennis player in the world, and they both got smoked by, I forget what his name was, Cranston. Anyways, he beat them both, and he looked like he was playing. He beat them one after the other. The guy was 54 years old, and he beat them 6-1 and 6-2. Two of the best female tennis players in their prime at the time, beat up by a 54-year-old guy. Just look at basketball for an easy one. In the NBA, in one season, you have multiple people that are going to dunk the ball 300 times or more in one season. In the WNBA, over a quarter century, there's like 35 dunks total. 30 some of them done by the one same person. This is ludicrous. It's insane. It is not the same. Biological men should definitely not be competing with biological women. And we have enough data on this. So how can people not see this? It's totally nuts. I mean, I live in Thailand. I'm around the trans community a lot. Like we have a lot of trans people here, but the difference is they know they're trans. They're happy to be trans. They call themselves ladyboy. They don't want to be women. There's no confusion here. They're the third gender and it just works. They're happy to be ladyboys. When they compete in sports, they either compete with each other or they compete with the men. They compete by chromosome. They compete with whom they have the biological, reproductive organs of. And it all works. And I think in the West, it would work as well. If you just wanted to transition and appear as a man, no problem. You want to get all the surgeries that you want. You want to dress like a man, present as a man. That's fine. We can call you by your name. We don't have to use the exact pronouns. And I think everybody in that case would be okay with it. But when you start changing laws and affecting children, affecting women's spaces, women's sports, people are going to jail for saying the wrong thing, using the wrong pronouns. I think when you start engaging in laws and one of the dictionaries actually change the definitions of what a woman is, I think when all this insanity comes around, that's when people really start to have issues with it. If you just wanted to dress up as a woman and present as a woman, get some surgeries, I think people would be fine. This thing about sports is absolutely ludicrous. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.